Alright, a deck building special for all you guys out there. Today I'll be talking about Almond Guys and how I think it should be built. Well, of course, there are many ways to build Guys, but I think there is a standard template from which you start off with. The first question you ask yourself when running Almond Guys is an ID is why not run Andromeda? Why not run Leader instead? And indeed, those two runners are probably more powerful and are probably of a higher tier than Geist. But if you want to create a good Geist deck for fun or whatever, go ahead. But this is why, in my opinion, is a good Geist deck, one that is worth running in Geist over Andy or any other criminal ID for that matter. So to start things off, it's a no-brainer that you have to run all three copies of each Cloud Breaker. Now, you might not like the Cloud Breakers, but the very fact is you need to have the Cloud Breakers, the entire set, to gain a critical mass of trash abilities such that Armor Guys becomes worth running. If you're just going to use the standard Criminal Breaker suite, or if you're just going to import Corroder and Guardian and not rely on Cloud Breakers at all, you might as well just play Andromeda. So you really need the critical mass of icebreakers so that you can cycle through your deck, and that's one of the key defining features of Geist, the ability to cycle through your deck and find every single card that is slotted in very quickly, much faster than any other criminal ID. So 9 is still not enough, but if you're running these Cloud Breakers, it only makes sense to run 3 clone chips as well, and with good reason. Firstly, with Marcus Beatty out, clone chip is a must. And Geist will become very resilient to Marcus Beatty once you slot in those chips. Secondly, and more importantly, any good court player, upon seeing that you're running Cloud Breakers, they will know how to counter it perfectly. It's pretty simple. Just stack multiple end-to-run code gates or barriers on the remote. This will tax your icebreakers to oblivion. Imagine if you need to spend 3 spikes or 3 crowbars to get through the remote every single time. You are going to get taxed out very quickly. Clone chip sort of negates that. It doesn't do it very well because it basically only gives you at most 6 spikes or 6 crowbars to work with, but it's something. That is still something to consider. Next up, we have Street Peddler, which is really, really good for the low influence cost of 1. You get such an amazing ability. Now, a lot of you might be asking, why do you need this? Because this is essentially something that lets you dig through your deck faster, but Geist can already dig through his deck at lightning speed with his ability. If you have ever played Geist at all, you'll notice that the biggest problem is actually the early game, because early on, you are just frantically drawing up to amass a critical mass of Cloud Breakers such that it can get through any ice. So a lot of your board state, your strength of your current board state lies in how fast you can get set up. And Street Peddler accelerates this by allowing you to see your cards faster, and also in 2 ways. You draw 3 cards with Street Peddler, and when you decide to install something, you draw an additional card. So this really speeds up your early game. It's very important, and it also discounts your installs, which is perfect because Crowbar and Spike both cost 1 to install. With Street Peddler, it's free. Clone Chip, same thing. So basically, guys, Street Peddler just works perfectly in Guys. 1 influence, definitely worth it. Of course, this means that now you're stuck at 9 influence. You have very little wiggle room for the other 6 influence, and you have a lot of gaps to fill, which is a downside. But I think it's definitely the right call to include 3 clone chips and peddlers in every deck. The next card I want to talk about is Underworld Contacts. This is a no-brainer. Given that you're running Cloud Breakers, you want 2 Link, and with 2 Link, you have to run Underworld Contact because everyone knows how powerful Pet Campaign is. You can have it unconditionally on a runner. It is really good. So now, from here, the path diverges. You still have 27 cards to work with. It's pretty flexible. There are some there are some general consensuses as to what to include for their 27 cards, but here's my take on it. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what kind of deck do you want to build? And for that, I ask myself, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the Cloud Breaker suite? It's very evident that with the Cloud Breaker suite, you are looking to make a few surgical, well-timed runs as opposed to the constant running of Criminal. So security testing, your standard criminal tools such as security testing, even Desperado, these are, you don't want to hold yourself into the mindset of playing like your traditional criminal. You are not going to make too many runs. You're going to make very tactical, very precise runs, but in quality, not quantity. So as such, if you're going to make impactful runs, you want to get the most out of that. And for that, there's only one criminal card that provides that. You've guessed it, it's Account Siphon. That I know a lot of people are divided on this, especially since you're going to be stacking quite a few resources, permanent resources that you do not want to get trashed. But I think if you're going for high impact runs, nothing beats the power of Account Siphon, at least until the mid game. As such, I think it is still worth an include. It is still one of the strongest cards on the runner side, so why not? Even if you're manually clearing tags, even if you're not running Forger, I think this is still the right call. Just clear the tags manually. You are still coming out ahead. Okay, so now we have that. Since we have Account Siphon, we might as well play same old thing. So this enables Geist ability as well. So while you are recurring your siphons, at the same time you're cycling through your deck, drawing more cards. Essentially a cantrip that slows down your opponent and gives you more money. It's definitely worth it. Having more siphon redundancy helps so that you smooth out your consistency with this deck. And suddenly this deck starts to look a lot like my Leela Patel siphon recursion deck. And this is exactly where I'm going. I think it is a good idea to merge the two ideas together. One of the biggest weaknesses of my Leela siphon recursion deck, I'll bring it up in a moment. One of the biggest weaknesses is, it's this one. One of the biggest weaknesses is that card draw is a premium. So a lot of times I'm finding myself drawing 4 cards a turn with this deck simply because I couldn't find my first Account Siphon, or simply because I couldn't find my Ether or my special orders that would allow me to get through HQ for the first Siphon. This is much easier to do in Guys because you're just cycling through your deck very quickly. Of course, you lose Leela's ability, which is pretty precious, the ability to bounce eyes on HQ or R&D, and the ability to prevent them from scoring, deter them from scoring early is pretty huge. But in this deck, I needed to include cards such as John Masnori, I've Had Worse, Quality Time, just to smoothen out the consistency. And you don't need to do that in Guys. All you need is to include all these trashables. So as such, you want more trashables early on. A lot of these trashables do not come into play until the mid-game when you begin making your runs. Clone chips and your 9 cloud breakers, you don't use them until mid-game. So you're not actually using your ability in the early game, which is why I mentioned Street Peddler is so important. You really want to speed up your early game, and another card that does this is Fall Guy. It is basically a cantrip. It's a weak version of Green Double Clearance on the runner side, but that doesn't mean it's not worth running. The important part is that for 1 click, you are drawing a card and gaining 2 credits. Most of the time, I find that with Guys, since you're running such cheap to install stuff, nothing so far costs more than 3 to install, right? Actually, nothing costs more than 2 to install for that matter. So you will rarely find yourself clicking for credits. Instead, you'll find yourself more often than not clicking for cards and trying not to click for too many cards because you don't want to discard lots of stuff. Almost every single card in this deck is playable. You don't want to discard them at the end of your turn. So what you really want is the ability to draw quickly, and this does that like a symmetrical visage like Troco, in that you gain some money while performing your draw. So it basically allows you to cycle through your deck faster while still giving you a couple of credits to tide you through the early game. It's a very essential card early game. Even in mid to late game, you can still have it installed to protect against flat lines and to protect against resource destruction. So I think Fall Guy is definitely the right choice in this kind of deck to cycle through, not just to synergize with Geist's ability, but because you want to cycle through your deck quickly to see those Account Siphons and those breakers as fast as possible. Alright, so where can we go from here? The next question to ask is, how do I get Link for my Cloud Breakers? There are lots of Link solutions in Faction. We have Dice in Membership. We have Forger, which just came out. A lot of people don't like Forger, and I agree, it's a pretty trash card, no pun intended. this basically anti-synergizes with itself. You do not really want to use the trash ability to avoid or remove attack unless it kills you. Simply because if you trash your Forger, you will go back down to one link and suddenly you realize that you are out of memory if you have too many cloud breakers installed. So Forger is only good if you tie it with some other link giving resources that will stay on the board, such as access to global sec. And this is the direction I'm going to go in. I'm going to play 3 Forger. Forger, I mean, of course, the obvious question is why don't you just play access to global sec instead? So you free up your console slot, yet still get access to the link. And that's a very valid question. I think I like the flexibility of being able to remove attack when you are performing mid-game account siphon runs. A lot of the times you find yourself playing first click same old thing, second and third account siphon. You still want to clear tags, but you only have one click left to clear tags. Well, Forger comes in to help you with that and allows you to draw one more card at the same time. And you won't lose the link if you have backup link. So as such, I'm going to have a permanent source of link in access to global sec. Finally, one card that a lot of people overlook when Geist was first spoiled is the helpful AI. This is everything Geist wants in a single package. The only problem is this right here, 2 influence. If this were infection, if this cost any less influence, it would be an automatic 2 or even 3 off for Geist. The helpful AI gives you 1 link and you can sack it anytime to boost the strength of an icebreaker. And that's huge. One of the biggest problems with Geist is that you can't really threaten remotes early if you don't have enough icebreakers installed. Well, the helpful AI solves that. The link allows you to install more breakers, more than 4 breakers, and more importantly, it activates your breakers much more quickly. So if you have a single crowbar and a helpful AI on the moment you have a single helpful AI on the board, the runner cannot really score behind binary eyes anymore. They have to be worried, what if he has a spike or shift in hand? He could just get through my remote server. So this makes early rush decks far less deadly. Helpful AI really helps you in the early game. It's a bit expensive to install, but it's totally worth it. I would love to include 2 if not 3 copies of it, but influence is very tight. So we'll just leave it as 1. This brings our total number of link cards to 5. 5 is an okay number. I still do find that I'm missing. I'm digging for link in quite a few of my games. Like I have 4 breakers installed and I cannot install anything more because I need to find my link. And I have 3 underworld contacts stuck in my hand because I don't have link yet. So those are very annoying things that can happen if you only run 5 link. I think 6 or more is the way to go, but deck slots are tight once more, so I'm just going to leave it as this for now. The next question to ask yourself. Well, obviously, you do not simply just play the 9 cloud breakers and call it a day. You need some other form of backup breakers to get through servers once you run out of cloud breakers. Permanent breakers, that's what you need. Some people swear by playing the standard breaker suite for Corroder and Zoo, which synergizes nicely because it costs no memory. I don't go for that. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that splashing for icebreakers is not a very good idea because you really want to spend your influence elsewhere. You'd rather spend your influence on utility cards and let the infection breakers do the work for you. So when you think of infection breakers, the only really efficient ones they can think of are the central only breakers, which is completely fine. If you think about it, they synergize very well. Your central only breakers breach your centrals, while the home invasion suite deals with the remotes. It makes perfect sense because you're not going to run through the remotes more than 2 or 3 times throughout the entire game. So being able to get through remotes for cheap and temporarily is exactly what your cloud breaker suite does, and it does it very well. So you can just focus on the central breaker suite with a single breach and passport. For the sentry breaker, for the centrals, well, alias is not that good. It's by no means the gold standard of sentry breakers. Mimic is nice, but without Data Sucker, it's pretty mediocre. So what I'm going for here is Femme Fatale. Since Toll Booth is being played in every single deck right now, Femme Fatale makes perfect sense for a deck that I mean, for a faction that doesn't have a natural solution against Tollbooth, except in the form of Fam and Shutdown. So Fam is, I think, is a pretty good choice, and I'll include a single fairy as well. Here's the thing with the Cloud Breakers that many people don't realize. Apparently, if you don't find enough Cloud Breakers early on, you're gonna struggle really hard to get through to play offensively. If you don't have enough Cloud Breakers, you can't go on the offense. But one thing you notice about Cloud Breakers is that their strength increases with each icebreaker. So if you can have more icebreakers on the board, it will help in accelerating the power of your Cloud Breakers, and Fairy does that very easily. Even though it doesn't synergize with Geist's ability, it pumps your disposable breakers because it's an icebreaker, and it costs 0 to install, so you won't take any tempo hit from installing it. That's why it's so great. Also, Fairy is really good against Jinteki. Without Mimic, Fairy is a very welcome sight if you're up against Jinteki. You don't want to faceplant into that Kumainu or Cortex Lock, especially Cortex Lock, because you're almost certainly having free memory once you have Link on your board. Alright, so this is my main breaker suite. So as you can probably guess, I'm mostly leveraging on Breach and Passport to activate account siphons once it gets to the mid to late game. Early game, I might use the Cloud Breakers for account siphon if I do not find my central breakers quickly enough. And I use the Cloud Breakers to threaten remotes, so they cannot score behind remotes. Since I'm only running one copy of Breach and Passport, I do not want to auto-lose a game if they are at the bottom of my deck. So you use the Infection Special Order, a no-brainer there. I'm running 2 because with so much breaker redundancy, I don't think I need the full 3 Special Orders. Alright, so I have 7 cards left to play around with. 4 more influence. What can I spend that influence on? Now, let's look at how much pressure I can place with my deck. As I said, Siphon plus Remote Pressure is deadly because, agendas will clog up in their hand. They cannot afford to score on remotes because they know that your Cloud Breakers can get through everything, and they're just going to get poorer and poorer with account Siphon. So agendas are going to clog up in their hand. You want to abuse that, you play Sneak Door, but there's not enough memory for that with my Central Breaker suite, so I go for Legbook instead. Pretty strong choice. Of course, this makes you very reliant on HQ pressure. Once they ice up HQ to a high, once HQ defenses are up, it's going to be very difficult to continue playing with this deck. As such, you need another route in, and R&D is the only other route, unless you're going to play Archives Milling with Data Leak Reversal. It's perfectly legit, especially since you're already running Fall Guy. I'm not going to do that though. Instead, I'm going to pressure R&D with, if you remember my Leela deck, how do I pressure R&D? I'm just going to take one out of the chapter of my own book and play Medium. Medium is fine because you have the Central Breaker suite, so you can repeatedly get through R&D to see multiple cards. I think it is a fine choice. You can make an argument for indexing or Maker's Eye, considering that you're playing same old thing as well. Definitely worth a thought. I'm just going to go with Medium for now. I have a bit of spare memory anyway. If you think of my final breaker suite, Breach, Fam, Passport, Medium, 4 memory. Perfect. Alright, so 1 influence left. What do you use for your final influence? When you have 1 influence left, the obvious choice is to play one of the shards. Utopia Shard is really strong. Hades Shard is a huge surprise. My dealer deck ran Hades Shard because it was able to place super strong HQ pressure between Sneak Door Beta and my Central Breakers. But instead of that, I'm going to go for something else. If you notice, I'm running 3, 6, 7, 10 connections. What card rewards you for playing lots and lots of connections? It's the underrated off-campus apartment. Just 1 copy, because you don't need more than 1 copy. But if you do see it early, it's just going to accelerate your early games so much more. It's like seeing a first-turn Page Piper. It's insane. And you don't have to host every single connection on it. It's really all in the sense that if your off-campus apartment gets blown up, your game gets blown up as well. But Fall Guy is there to protect it, and also the card draw is invaluable. So now I have a very strong deck that cycles through amazingly well early game. Imagine that Fall Guy now, if you install a Fall Guy on top of an off-campus apartment, for one click, you're getting 2 cards and 2 credits. That's called efficiency. So that's my influence suite rounded up. I have 3 more cards left. What shall I go for? Early game money could be a problem. You don't want to play Sure Gamble because early game you're likely to install a couple of link cards, a couple of BNE breakers. Suddenly you realize you only have 2 credits left in your pool. You do not want to click for credits and follow it up with a Sure Gamble. That is bad. Looking at my Leela deck, what other ways are there to improve your credit level? There's Bank Drop, but I'm not running Ether, so it's probably not that good. Dirty Laundry is fine. Nope, it's not. I'm not running Desperado. I can't get full mileage out of Dirty Laundry. There are not that many good options left, so I went for the standard resource options. Anyway, since I'm playing off-campus apartment, I might as well go for the connections. So my choice here was 1 KD Jones and 1 Trimark Contact. Both of these cards are good early game, especially Trimark early game, because it gives you the tempo you need to install cards. Late game, it still sustains you. When account siphon is no longer viable, you want to get more than 3 credits a turn to break ice, and KD Jones and Trimark gets you there. I think Trimark is a mistake. I have pretty good early game power already. I think 2 KD Jones is the correct call. This is a change I will make from my original deck. So now I have 1 card left. What shall I spend it on? You do not need plus crit. If you ever play with Geist, you realize that he's basically immune to any sort of flatline tactics, because between Fall Guy and all your trashables, you are going nowhere. You can just stack your resources at the end of your turn to draw back up cards before they play Scorched Earth or Traffic Accident. Yep. I don't actually remember what's the last card, so I'm just going to cheat and look at my final deck list over here. Crescentus. I use Crescentus, alright. Yes, Crescentus is a one-off because it's recurable with Clone Chip, and it deals with some niche archetypes that could pose a problem for guys, mainly Blue Sun. You do not want to spend 6 credits. You do not want to get completely locked out of that remote curtain wall. It is horribly annoying to break curtain wall with Spike. You need 10 icebreakers out, which is basically only doable once or twice throughout the entire game. So having a Crescentus to de-res that curtain wall really helps big time. It's also another counter against Tollbooth, which you do not want to pay your way through if you are too poor to fam it. So yeah, this is my deck in a nutshell. It's Siphon Recursion, but does not require Siphon to survive, given Underworld contacts and all the connections. Your endgame goal is mostly to stack your medium counters and go and threaten R&D digs if they don't protect R&D well enough. If they do, they are not focusing on their remotes or HQ enough, which you can exploit with the relevant cards. I think this is a pretty strong deck. It might struggle against Neof Hard Fast Advance, as it will against anyone running Big Ice, particularly HB. But it's definitely worth a shot, and I think this is one of the strongest decks that you can build with guys right now. I'm going to give a gameplay through. It'll be coming up in a couple of days' time, so watch out for it. In the meantime, thanks for watching and happy net running. Goodbye.